is, how are we going to define winning? I hear back in March, you said about the Iranians, and I quote, whether they will have a ceremony in Tehran Square and surrender, that's up to them. So my question, Mr. Secretary.
On March 24th, the president said 7 words. We've won this war has been won. It is now late July. 18 American service members are dead. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. And the Secretary of War is asking Congress for $67 billion to keep fighting the war that was already won. So a senator asks him to do one simple thing: define what winning means. And then reads him a fact from Trump's own intelligence director that the whole war is built to ignore. Watch.
Indeed, the president said on March 24th, and I'm quoting, we've won this war. This war has been won. Do you know what the president meant by that back in March?
We've won this war has been won. This is Carter McKenzie. We don't do outrage, we read the receipts. And today the receipt is a single word nobody will define. Before the word game, Van Hollen puts the price on the table. Because define winning only bites when you can see what's been spent. Watch him lay out the cost, calmly, like a bill.
We recently lost 3 American heroes. That brings the death toll for American soldiers to 18. 1 is still missing. Hundreds have been injured. That's on top of the civilian death toll throughout the region that now stands at several thousand, including the over 150 people killed in the bombing of an elementary school in Minab in Iran. Meanwhile, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Gas prices today in the United States again spiked above $4 a gallon. And that will also continue to push up costs for groceries and other things that families buy. Secretary Hegseth, you said in your opening statement the best way to ensure peace is to prepare for war. And I agree with you about deterrence. I would also submit that the best way to ensure peace is not to start wars, because wars are a lot easier to start than they are to end.
That's the ledger. 18 dead, a closed strait, $4 gas for a war the president declared won in March. So the question isn't rhetorical. If it's won, why the $67 billion? If it's not won, what does winning even look like? Van Hollen makes Hegseth put a definition on the record.
So, Mr. Secretary, you've talked a lot about winning. You've talked about winning in your testimony today. You've talked about winning throughout the Iran war, and we all like winning. But I think the American people deserve a definition of what it means to win in Iran, because this war has dragged out for a lot longer than certainly the President of the United States indicated. Indeed, the President said on March 24th, and I'm quoting, we've won this war. This war has been won. Do you know what the President meant by that back in March?
Well, Senator, I would just note that militarily, I mean, Iran has been completely overmatched and crushed from the beginning, militarily. Their capabilities are nowhere near ours. I would take issue with your characterization that we started this war. Iran started this war 47 years ago, and they've killed thousands of Americans, including our brothers on the battlefield in Iraq. Iran has been targeting us for a long time.
Mr. Secretary,
we didn't start it, they did.
Let me just ask you this, since you said that what the president meant by his statement on March 24th, I think that we had sort of defeated Iran militarily. But that is not the entire objective of this war. I don't think there was ever a question about whether the United States, with its superior military, could destroy a lot of Iranian assets, military assets, or other assets. That was never a question. But when most people think of winning the war, they think that that means the war is going to come to an end because we've won. And the president said back in March that we'd won. So I guess my question to you is, how are we going to define winning? I hear back in March, you said about the Iranians, and I quote, whether they will have a ceremony in Tehran Square and surrender, that's up to them. So my question, Mr. Secretary, Reopening the Strait of Hormuz is necessary in order for us to win, right? That's just a simple yes or no question.
You asked me what the overarching objective is, and I would say ensuring Iran never has a nuclear weapon. That's been clear from the president from day one. That's why Midnight Hammer was undertaken, to obliterate their nuclear sites. That's why we're watching their nuclear sites. That's why that was a part of negotiations, ensuring that the next generation of Americans don't have to deal with an Iran that wields a nuclear weapon.
Since that's what you're leading with, Mr. Secretary, let me just say this. You said after Midnight Hammer, and I'm quoting, "Our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons," unquote. Clearly, that is not the case based on your testimony today. It's also a fact that the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, testified in front of the Intelligence Committee that it was our assessment that Iran did not intend to restart its nuclear program. The President of the United States, just about a week ago, said Iran has committed not to develop a nuclear weapon, which of course is a commitment they've made for many years. We need to enforce that.
Watch the maneuver because it's the tell of the entire war. Van Hollen asks, define winning. Hegseth doesn't. Instead, he swaps the goal from winning the war to ensuring Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. That's a quiet but enormous move. Winning implies the war ends. Ensuring they never get a weapon is open-ended. It could justify striking Iran forever. So the moment he's asked to define victory, the definition changes into something that has no finish line. That's not an answer. It's an escape from the question. And then Van Hollen produces the receipt that makes this more than a semantics argument, because it comes from inside the administration itself. Hegseth, after the strikes, said the campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. Van Hollen's response: that is clearly not the case based on your testimony today, since Hegseth has spent the hearing admitting Iran still has capabilities. But here's the part that should stop you, regardless of party. Van Hollen points out that Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's own director of national intelligence, testified that Iran did not intend to restart its nuclear program. Sit with that. The war's central justification is that Iran was racing for a bomb. Trump's own top intelligence official told Congress they weren't. When the person selling the war and the person running the intelligence give you two different stories, that's not spin, that's a contradiction with a paper trail. Here's why this is a receipt story and not just another clash. Van Hollen isn't offering his opinion of the war. He's holding up three documents: the president's own words on March 24th, the secretary's own words after Midnight Hammer, and the DNI's own testimony. All three are on the record. All three point in different directions. You don't need to take a side on Iran to see that a government cannot have simultaneously A. already won, B. obliterated the nuclear program, and C. needed a war because the program was 2 weeks from a bomb. One of those is wrong. Define winning is just the polite way of asking which. Watch the last beat the straight question, the cleanest yes or no of the round.
Reopening the Strait of Hormuz is necessary in order for us to win, right? That's just a simple yes or no question.
You asked me what the overarching objective is, and I would say ensuring Iran never has a nuclear weapon. That's been clear from the president from day one. That's why Midnight Hammer was undertaken, to obliterate their nuclear sites. That's why we're watching their nuclear sites. That's why that was a part of negotiations, ensuring that the next generation of Americans don't have to deal with an Iran that wields a nuclear weapon.
Now the receipts cut both ways, and Hegseth's side is real. Preventing a nuclear-armed Iran is a serious, widely shared goal, and he'd argue that obliterated referred to Iran's declared facilities, which were struck, even if hidden capability remains. He'd say intelligence assessments like Gabbard's are snapshots that change, and that a determined regime can restart. Those are legitimate points, and the video gives them room. But notice, they still don't answer the question. Define winning wasn't a trap you escape with nuance. It was an invitation to state a finish line, and no finish line was offered. And the DNI receipt doesn't soften. If Trump's own intelligence director said Iran didn't intend to restart, then the 2 week to a bomb justification and the intelligence were never aligned. You can believe Iran is dangerous, most people do, and still notice that the government's own top officials told Congress 3 incompatible things. So here's what the receipts actually say, stripped of the shouting. A war declared won on March 24th. A secretary asking for $67 billion to keep fighting it in July. A claim that the nuclear program was obliterated walked back at the same hearing. and Trump's own director of national intelligence on record, saying Iran didn't intend to restart the exact opposite of the war's stated reason. 18 Americans dead, the strait still closed, and no definition of winning anyone will put on the record. Won or unwinnable? Don't take my word for it. The hearing is linked below. Watch Van Hollen's 5 minutes and read the 3 quotes yourself. This is Carter Mackenzie. We read the receipts, so you never have to take anyone's word for it. Not theirs and not mine.